The Saviour of Mothers, Ignaz Semmelweis. In 1846, a young man named Ignaz Semmelweis began work as a medical assistant in the obstetrics department of the University of Vienna. The great disease that plagued the maternity wards in Europe at that time was childbed fever, and every 1 in 6 mothers died at the hospitals shortly after giving birth. When their bodies were dissected, doctors would discover the same whitish pus that smelled horrifically. Seeing the effects of the disease, Semmelweis could not think of anything else. He worked like a man obsessed to save the mothers. When he analyzed the problem, he figured that the same levels of increased deaths did not happen in the household deliveries of the babies where it was carried out by midwives. At that time, the most common explanation for the cause of the deaths revolved around the idea that it was an airborne infection. After much thinking and studying of the literature on the subject, Semmelweis came to the startling conclusion that it was the direct hand-to-hand contact between the doctor and the patient that caused the disease. As he was formulating this theory, an event occurred that seemed to prove it conclusively. A leading doctor in the department had accidentally pricked his finger by a knife while conducting an autopsy on a woman who had childbed fever, and the doctor died within few days due to the massive infection. When they dissected his body, he had the same white pus as the woman whose autopsy he conducted. Now Semmelweis was able to clearly put forward his theory in place. Here goes his theory. In the mornings, autopsies of many dead bodies were conducted by doctors. Subsequently, they deliver babies and pass the disease into the woman's blood through their open pregnancy wounds. And for this, Semmelweis instituted a simple solution. Doctors would have to wash and thoroughly disinfect their hands before handling any patients, a practice no one followed in any hospital at that time. Remember, this was the 19th century Europe. On the brink of perhaps a major discovery in science, Semmelweis seemed to be on his way to an illustrious career. But the entire incident took a dangerous political color. The head of the department, Johann Klein, was a very conservative gentleman, and accepting the theory of Semmelweis would mean the acceptance of the fact that the physicians were literally poisoning their patients, that is, the mothers with childbed fever infection. When Semmelweis instituted the disinfection of hands as a practice in his own ward and reduced the mortality of mothers to half, Dr. Klein refused to give it any attention. He ascribed the lower number of fatalities to a new ventilation system he had installed in the ward. Semmelweis was infuriated by the ignorance of Dr. Klein. He gave several lectures about the medical problem and pulled a few doctors to his side. However, he was not able to overthrow the dominance of Dr. Klein, and further, his contract as an assistant was not renewed by Dr. Klein in the University of Vienna. Dejected by this, Semmelweis left Vienna. Semmelweis' colleagues who supported him felt betrayed as they had staked their reputation to go against Dr. Klein, and now he had left them in the lurch. At that time, the biggest mistake of Semmelweis was he did not write up his findings in a book that would spread his theory throughout Europe. He subsequently joined an hospital at Budapest, the capital of Hungary, and instituted his disinfection policies with rigor and tyrannical intensity. Though the death rates decreased, many doctors in the hospital turned against Semmelweis as his findings had no proper experiments to back them up. They saw it as a mere act of promoting himself. Finally, in 1860, under pressure from colleagues yet again, he decided to write the book that would explain his theory in full. However, instead of a medical thesis, the book he published was a 600-page long diatribe that included the political acts of the doctors who had opposed him. His book was abandoned as most doctors merely called attention to his violent tone rather than the findings of his research. Virtually abandoned by almost everyone, Semmelweis fell ill, subsequently got depressed, and died at the age of 47. He is recognized even to this day as the savior of mothers' lives. The most important lesson that Semmelweis failed to learn was the critical role of social intelligence in all fields. Semmelweis completely ignored its necessity and, due to constant arguing, lost the opportunity to spread his ideas in the prestigious University of Vienna. If he had merely devoted his time to make his case in writing and allowed his work to speak for itself, he would have saved far more lives in the long run and earned a name for himself. Robert Greene explains the importance of social intelligence in his great book Mastery, using the life of Semmelweis as an example. He says that your work is the single greatest means at your disposal for expressing social intelligence. Here are the 3 lessons which he states. By being detail oriented in what you do, you demonstrate that you are thinking of the group at large and not just a means to be a hero. By making what you write clear, you show your care for the audience. By involving other people in your projects and gracefully accepting their feedback, you reveal your comfort with the group dynamic. A work that is solid protects you from the political conniving of others. Speak through your work. If you would like to listen to these kinds of anecdotes from the world of politics, business, mythology, and sports, consider subscribing to our channel.